Hi everybody, this is Tara Cannistraci. I am at the Comedy and Magic Club, and this is another episode of Behind the Punchlines. First time walking into the Comedy and Magic Club, what was your first thought? Well, my first time walking in here was a real special circumstance, not just because of how great the club is, but it was also my first time working the club and my first time ever opening for Joe Coy. So I had about 3 hours preparation, which is not a lot of time. So I wasn't, at least I didn't have so much time where I got in my own head about it, but it was definitely a surreal experience because the club, iconic, and the comic I was opening for, a legend. So I had a lot of emotions, and I came in here, I acted like I was cool, dying inside a little bit maybe. And I think what put me at ease the most was the staff, how wonderful they were and how embracing they were. And I got to speak to Mike and Richard and Joe, and his team was here, and it was just an immediate comfortability, like an automatic family. And so I think that definitely helped ease any butterflies I might have had initially. And it was still very exciting. I would say the hardest thing about being a comedian today, and I've only been in the business about 13 years, where I've really put my time in for 13 straight years, is that it's more than just being funny. It's more than just writing the jokes, which is the most important thing, and getting the reps in. I think it's become a real business, and there's a whole other side to it with like social media, and it's kind of hard to battle the back end of things while still being true to the writer and the performer, and working the road and networking, and still trying to balance life while you do a post every day and engage with an audience online. I think being a comedian now is more than just being a comic. I think there are so many other facets to it that make it even harder. But I think it just depends on what level of success, and that's a weird word, that you want, because there are a lot of people that could have success online on social media but can't be great comics, and there are some that can do both, and then there are some that are great comics, ones I would strive to get the experience to be as good as one day, that don't do social media. So and to me that's equally as successful, because I rather and always err on the side of being funny and being true and being a writer. But that doesn't always pay the bills. So I think that's the hardest part right now about being a comedian. My advice to someone who is just starting comedy would be, first and foremost, do it because you love it. Obviously, if you're just starting out, you're not doing it for money. If I was doing this for money, I would have quit a long time ago. So I would say the most important thing to do while you start out is get in as many reps as you can. I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to start in New York City, where there were so many opportunities to get up on stage and network. I mean, New York had every type of room. I've done comedy in hookah lounges, bars, comedy clubs, hostels. Like, there was just never not an opportunity to perform when you're in some place like the Mecca of New York. But there are people who are starting comedy who don't have the ability to be maybe in a major city. But there are, lucky enough, comedy is really is taking on a new scene, and it's available in places that aren't just regular comedy clubs. So I think the most important thing to do is to write your life, write your experiences, write your jokes, and get up on stage and perform them as often as you can. I think comedy changes the more you do it, and I know for me, comedy changed completely once my name was on the bill. Once people were coming out to see me, that put a whole new level of pressure on me. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it was as much fun initially as it was on those early days. So if you're doing it now, remember to have fun. How do I stay motivated during tough times in my career? I could cry right now. No, of course, life is a roller coaster. Comedy, a scarier roller coaster. There are ups and downs. I couldn't be on this and be honest with you and say that I didn't go to bed at night being like, what am I doing with my life? You know, because it's very hard. You know, I often compare it to, you know, going to school or graduate school and getting a degree and then being able to get the career you want. There's no degree for this. It's so many years of work and trial and error. And I say, sometimes you know, even when writing a new joke, no matter how seasoned you are, sometimes you got to be bad before it's good. And that's really hard. It's really hard to have the perseverance to do it. What I have gotten to get me through it is community. I think in life and in comedy, it's very important to find your people. I have been very fortunate to find comics who have encouraged me and helped create opportunities for me. And those little moments, those moments where people can believe in you or see something in you, when even if you believe in it yourself, you just can't see it happening because it's just so hard, and them encouraging you or giving you an opportunity because they think you've deserved it, those are what get me through. And even just the conversations, you know, being able to talk shop about how hard it is with somebody who really understands it. So I think the biggest thing that has helped me in comedy is community. But again, it's about finding the right community and the right people. How do I balance a comedy career with a personal life? I don't know what a personal life is because I want a comedy career. And I think that that's a common thread. If you really want this, it's very hard to create balance in your life because it's just so much work that has to be put into it, so many different facets of it. But it is important to create I don't know if it's like the perfect balance. I don't know if anything in life is a perfect balance. So I try not to be too critical of myself about that. I find the time when I need it. I have a really supportive family and friends that understand what it is I'm trying to do. And they understand that will take time away from me being certain places or doing certain things. But when it comes down to it, I'm there when I'm needed. And I have learned a very big lesson because there have been moments where I have been so focused on just the work and not life that I have said, oh my God, what am I going to write about next? Because yes, you have to be driven and yes, you have to work hard. But if you do not take time to live, well, then you can't make fun of it. And that's where we draw from comedy, by living life and having these experiences. And it's equally as important to the craft as it is to the value of your life. You know, I think as I get older, which is happening, seems like it's happening a little quicker than it used to, I find that time is my biggest commodity and the most important thing. And that as much as I love working and as much as work takes up so much time of my life, that these are the days of my life, so I've got to fit in doing something more than just this at times. Although I'm not gonna lie, I still love it. I love getting up on stage almost every night. I love the road, even though it's taxing. I know there's that old cliche that's like, oh, if you have a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. No, you'll work. It's work. But I do love it, and so that's really important. I can recall my first stand-up comedy performance. Oh my God, if I say how many years ago it was, I will cry on camera. It was 16, 20? Okay, it was a very long time ago. What I will say is I got on stage, I only had 5 minutes, and I got that first laugh, and I was addicted. And I was like, oh, this is what I was meant to do. This is going to be easy. No. But I did love it. It was addicting getting that first laugh. It was in Midtown Manhattan. I was opening up a show. I wrote 5 minutes and got up there and did it. And, you know, I knew it's where I was supposed to be. And it takes a really long time to get good at it, and maybe the audience was very kind, but I do believe in beginner's luck. I read a book called The Alchemist, and it's very much about finding your purpose in life. And there's a part of it that says you get beginner's luck, and that's kind of like a little push to keep going if it's really something that you're meant to do. And so I definitely had beginner's luck because it was a lot harder year after year after year to really get good at it. I think this is a really interesting question. It says, how do you balance the need for authenticity in your material with the desire to appeal to a broad audience? So this is what I will say. I think there's truth in comedy, or comedy in truth. And I think the things I talk about that I see every day or live every day are some of the most relatable. And that's when it's the most funny. The need to appeal to a broad audience is an interesting phrase because I, for years, said I just wanted to be a mainstream comic. And I didn't want to be known as the New York Italian, even though I sound like this and this is my accent. And I don't know how hard it's coming across on this. I probably won't even be able to listen to this video because I'll hear my accent and I'll be cringing. But it's funny because I didn't really gain an audience or get popular until I started talking very specifically, not broadly, but very specifically about being a New York Italian. And I remember I did a video online. I had no social media following at the time. I had been doing comedy for about 8 or 9 years. I grabbed my phone one day. I said, these are words and phrases I heard growing up in my New York Italian neighborhood. Posted the video online, but nothing of it. When I picked up my phone again, it had something like 300,000 views. And all of a sudden, people started buying tickets to come see me in ways they never had. And I remember thinking they were coming to see this Italian comic. And I maybe at the time had only about 2 or 3 jokes about being Italian. And I called a comic who I love and revere, and I think he is one of the greatest. And that is Colin Quinn. And I had said, I'm gonna be pigeonholed. Now all I'm gonna be is this New York Italian comic. And he said, Tara, I don't know what you think we hear when you open your mouth, but nobody is ever gonna think you are anything but a New York Italian. It doesn't make a difference what the jokes are. And then he complimented me in the biggest way I think anybody can compliment me, but especially Colin Quinn. He said, I can put you in front of any audience. And he named 4 or 5 mainstream comedians. And he said, you opening for them, you're going to do well in front of all of those audiences. So you don't have to worry about what you're putting online. He said, and he was not the only person to say this. I have to credit 2 comics because I can't credit one and not the other. These 2 comics who I hold so high up, Colin Quinn and Josh Wolf, both said this to me. The more specific you are, the more universal you will be. And it is kind of the advice I now pass on to comics who are trying to get a social media following or who are trying to find their voice or their persona on stage. I think it's excellent advice. And from a business standpoint, just get them in the door. And then you can prove who you are and what your comedy is, and that's how you can keep them. So that is still my plan. Tonight at the Comedy Magic Club, I opened for Jay Leno. And I have met Jay prior and worked with him a few other times as I was lucky enough to be added to a showcase show he was on. But tonight was a little different because this was Jay Leno's headlining show, and it was at the Comedy and Magic Club, which made it extra special for me because this club has kind of really provided such a big platform for me with the biggest names in comedy. And I kind of had a crazy hectic day today, and then I ran to get ready and I got in my car and I was like, I'm on my way to open for Jay Leno. As crazy as the day was, as busy as it was, I don't want to let this moment have less importance than it should. I don't want to take away from how special this is and how great the drive is here. And nobody ever says the drive in California is great, but it was a great drive because look at the opportunity I had. Jay has paved the way for so many comics. And here I am, just the opportunity to get on stage with his name, on the, it's Jay Leno's show. And I'm lucky enough to just get on that stage and open for him. And, these are the wins. These are the times when I say, it's a Sunday night and I'm crazy and I have to get to Hermosa Beach. Great. What a great problem to have. What a great problem that I have to drive 53 minutes to get to the Comedy and Magic Club to open up for Jay Leno. The weirdest place I've ever performed comedy. Listen, I came up in New York City. Every place was weird. Even the regular places were weird. New York City, if you can make it there, you can make it. They've provided every type of stage for me. I performed comedy at hostels. I've performed comedy in hookah lounges, at the basement of bars, in the back of bars. During the pandemic, in parks, like in public parks. It would just be Dan Zumba to my right and a quinceañera to my left, babies in the audience, you know, a mic, some grass. I mean, when you want to do this, you want to do it. I did it in my living room. I did it in my living room on Zoom. You know, if there's a will, there's a way. And if I didn't quit then, I guess I'm never leaving this business. But I would say the weirdest places had to be the park. The park was probably the weirdest. I'm not gonna lie, because of the times and what we were all going through, but it also made it really special and a really great place for comics and the audiences to like get a relief, like a little release. So special as much as it was weird. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. My answers were honest and real. I really enjoyed the questions. I hope you guys had a great time. Thank you for hanging with me. This was another episode of Behind the Punchlines. I really enjoyed this. Do not forget to subscribe.